Okay, we are here. Good evening. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes for the rest of the participants to come in. I am Jamie Jones with WhirlAway Travel, and we are joined tonight with Stacy Nicolettos from Rocky Mountaineer. So again, just a couple more minutes, and then we're going to start the presentation. I'm really excited about tonight because Stacy is amazing.
Thank you, Jamie. You're so too kind. Too kind. I did pay her a couple of bucks to say that.
Just a few. So for those of you that just joining us now, my name is Jamie Jones. I'm president of WhirlAway Travel in Westchester, Pennsylvania. We're joined tonight with Stacy Nicolettos, our wonderful representative from Rocky Mountaineer. I've known Stacy for quite a few years. It's been a while. I feel like it's almost been as long as I've been with WhirlAway, almost. And Stacy honestly is one of the nicest and funnest reps. So I'm really excited about your presentation tonight, Stacy. We're going to be learning all about Rocky Mountaineer and the Canadian Rockies, and really the best way to see the Canadian Rockies, which is not by a car, it's by a train. And Stacy's going to be presenting all about, you know, train travel and the experience that you're going to have with Rocky Mountaineer. So for those of you that are just joining us on our webinar and also on Facebook Live, again, last time, Jamie Jones from WhirlAway Travel joined with Stacy Nicolettos from Rocky Mountaineer, and I'm going to allow Stacy to take over now. If you have any questions, I'm sorry, I'm not going to allow Stacy to take over quite yet. If you have any questions at the bottom for anybody that has not been on Zoom yet, I'm sure there's not many of you because Zoom is our lives right now. There is a question and answer at the bottom, and there's also a chat option. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in at any time. We are going to be addressing any questions at the end, and also make sure that you stay till the end because Stacy's going to go over some really amazing promotions that they have right now. 2021 is going to be a huge year for the Canadian Rockies, so you want to make sure that you stay tuned for all that there is to offer. Okay, it's all you, Stacy.
All right, so let's see here. Can you see my screen?
Nope.
How do so I need for you to share. Oh, got it. I have it now. There we go. Are we good? All right. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, you're good.
Fantastic. Thank you. So good evening, everybody. And Jamie, thank you for that fantastic introduction. I think that's definitely one of the best ones I've ever had. So again, my name is Stacy. I am so fortunate that I get to work for such a wonderful company like Rocky Mountaineer. And I really want to thank all of you for welcoming me into your homes this evening. So welcome aboard. Now you're probably wondering right now, what exactly does Rocky Mountaineer do? Well, hopefully you can tell by the picture. We provide these fabulous rail vacations throughout the Canadian Rockies. Now, you probably are also wondering, well, Stacy, do I sleep on the train? And the answer is no. And there's really two reasons for that. The first reason is the scenery throughout the Canadian Rockies is just breathtaking. And when you're traveling with us on the train, what you're going to notice, not a lot of roads. So we're giving you this exclusive access to seeing not only those gorgeous, majestic snow-capped mountains, but also some beautiful turquoise rivers and lakes, some spectacular waterfalls, and that amazing wildlife as well. Second reason why we don't have you sleep on the train, it's very near and dear to my heart. Want to make sure that you sleep in a comfortable bed. So I'm going to talk about the stellar service that you're going to receive as you're traveling on the train, which I lovingly call Rocky. Now, all your vacations are either going to start or end in Vancouver. We are a Canadian-based company. Now, people ask me all the time, wow, are you calling in from Canada? Not quite. This is my joke. I live in Washington, D.C., not B.C. Now, I know you all are on mute. I'm just going to assume that you all are laughing at my little corny joke. But we are Canadian based. Our headquarters is in Vancouver. And right here, smack in the middle of the city, is our headquarters. We're still a privately held company, and we're still family owned. And it's kind of rare in our industry to kind of have those qualities. And we do a lot of things to kind of bring you into the Rocky Mountaineer family when you're traveling with us. One of the things that we do is at the start of your vacation, we'll go ahead and we'll shuttle you to the train station. And you're going to be greeted by a lot of really happy people. And just know that these are volunteers of people who actually work on our headquarters. So we ask everyone and we say, hey, who wants to do the send-off? People volunteer and we bus them really, really, really early to the train so that as you are departing the train, you're going to be seeing these wonderful people with sending you off. And just know that these are people who work for Rocky Mountaineer. Now, Steve Samet, who is our president and CEO, Peter Armstrong, who is the founder and owner of Rocky Mountaineer, and Karen Hardy, who's our vice president. She's the woman that's here in the yellow and the orange skirt. When they're in town, they're there sending you off as well. Now, on the train, you're going to be greeted by a lot more really happy people, and these are your hosts. And they wear a couple of different hats. So first of all, they're there to ensure that you're having the most fabulous vacation possible. But they're also providing commentary. Our trains travel fairly slow, anywhere from 25 to 35 miles an hour. So you're able to take in that beautiful scenery versus it just being a blur flying by. So they're telling you the history of what it is that you're seeing, providing wonderful storytelling, but they're also excellent animal scouts. So I don't know if you can tell, but the gentleman in the middle, James, he's wearing an earpiece. All of the hosts talk to each other amongst the different rail cars. So when, for example, there's a family of bears, James is like, okay, we just heard that there's a family of bears up to the right. Everybody goes to the right. And he's like, wait, I think we see moose to the left. Everybody goes to the left. It's very much of a social environment. We encourage you to get up, walk around. We do not expect you to be sitting at your seats the entire time. All your meals and drinks are included as you're traveling with us on the train. Our food, fantastic. Everything is locally sourced. Everything is prepared fresh. So if you do have any kind of dietary restrictions, just notify your WhirlAway Travel consultant so that we can notify the chefs to have a special meal prepared for you. So the meal service usually includes breakfast and lunch with gourmet snacks in between. And then usually towards the end, you're going to be smelling this fabulous aroma. It's because the chefs are baking you fresh cookies. So my word of advice, do not bring snacks on the train. We are feeding you the entire time. Our meals are 3 courses. Now we do include beverages as well, and that's non-alcoholic and alcoholic. And this is what I always say. If you like to have a little Bailey's in your coffee in the morning, it's quite all right because you're on vacation. I've gotten a lot of questions throughout the years about, how do I work with my travel advisor to put together the perfect vacation for me? And so what I thought I would do is kind of break it down into 4 steps on how you can work with your WhirlAway Travel advisor. So the first step is choosing your rail service level. We have 2 different rail cars in which you can travel with us. The next step is choosing your rail route. We actually have 3 routes that'll take you from Vancouver out to the Canadian Rockies. The third step is choosing your package. And what I really mean by that is sightseeing activities that you'll be doing once you're off the train in either Vancouver or out in the Canadian Rockies. And the last step is choosing when you'll travel or what your season's going to be. So let's start off with the first step, and that's choosing your rail service. And again, we have 2 different rail cars in which you can travel with us. First is our Silverleaf rail car. And as you can tell from the picture, it's all one level, but there are these big wide windows so you're able to take in that spectacular scenery. Your meals are going to be plated at your seats. So there's a big tray that comes down, they put down the white tablecloth, and you have a choice of 2 different hot entrees. Last year was a choice between shrimp or pork tenderloin, but again, you're vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free. Just again, notify your travel advisor so the chefs can have something specially prepared for you. Now also in our Silverleaf service, you can get outside and take in some fresh air, and that'll be in the vestibule. And what I mean by that, it's really the space in between the cars. So if you're looking at the picture, it's the area here where the door is. This window is open and it's a big wide window. So you're able to take in some fresh air, also take some amazing photos outside of the rail car. Then we have our Gold Leaf. Now our Gold Leaf rail cars, 2 stories. Upstairs, all glass dome seating. Downstairs, it's a full service restaurant with an a la carte menu of up to 7 different entrees. There is a spiral staircase going from upstairs to downstairs, but there's also a lift. So if you have any issues with stairs, it's not a problem. You can still travel on our Gold Leaf car. But what I really love about our Gold Leaf is downstairs, there's a dedicated outdoor viewing platform. And it gives you just this wonderful space to walk around, take in that wonderful mountain crisp air, and take, again, some amazing photographs outside of the rail car. Once you decide whether you're traveling in our Silverleaf or our Gold Leaf rail car, now it's time for you to decide where you like to sleep at night. And you have a choice. You can stay at our 5-star hotels. These are like what we call our Gold Leaf. They are typically going to be the Fairmonts, and out in Alberta, it really is those iconic hotels like the Chateau Lake Louise or the Fairmont Banff Springs, which everybody calls the castle in the mountains. But we also have some fantastic 3- and 4-star hotels. Those we tend to quantify as our Silverleaf hotels, but they're right downtown. So if you like to have, everything there at your fingertips as far as shops and restaurants, you may want to consider our Silverleaf hotels. To be quite honest with you, I don't think you can go wrong with any of the hotels that we've selected. And you can mix match. And what I mean by that is that, for example, you can travel in our Gold Leaf rail car, but then maybe stay in one of our more modest hotels that are centrally located. So it's nice that there's some flexibility there. The next step is choosing your rail route. And we have 3 different routes that'll take you from Vancouver out to the Canadian Rockies. And looking at the map here, we have the 3 routes and they're all different colors. Now, a question I got quite often is, well, Stacy, do we have to start in Vancouver? And actually, you have a choice. If you're going to start your vacation in Vancouver, you're going to start on the train first, taking one of our routes out to either Jasper, Lake Louise, or Banff. At that point, you're going to get off the train and do your sightseeing activities while you're in the Canadian Rockies. However, you can do this in the reverse. And what I mean by that is you can start your vacation out in Calgary. At this point, you're in Alberta. So you're in the Canadian Rockies. So you're going to start your vacation off the train first, doing those sightseeing activities, and I'll talk about that next. And then hopping on board one of our routes, relaxing, making your way back to Vancouver. Now that's if you're going to take the train one way. However, you can also take the train round trip as well. So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about what makes each of these routes really special and unique. The first route is our Rainforest to Gold Rush. This is our only 3-day route. So if you're wanting to spend more time on the train, but taking it one way, this is a great option for you. And what I love about our Rainforest to Gold Rush route, every single day, the scenery changes dramatically. So for example, if you're going to start in Vancouver, you're going to be making your way up to Whistler. It's about a 4-hour train ride, and you're going to be traveling along some beautiful different bodies of water. You're going to arrive into Whistler probably around 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and now you have all day to spend in Whistler. To me, I think of Whistler as like a mini Switzerland. Now, I know you're probably thinking, oh, Whistler, isn't that like a ski town? And it is, because it was home to the 2010 Winter Olympics. But in the summertime, there's also so many different things that you can see and do in this spectacular town. Now, the next morning, we'll be picking you up from your hotel because we do include all transfers from the hotel to the train station. And now you're going to be making your way up to the tiny little town of Quesnel. Now, the reason why we call this route Rainforest to Gold Rush is right outside of Whistler, there is a rainforest. So it's very lush and green. But as you start making your way up to Quesnel, which is the Gold Rush route, you're going to see that the scenery has changed dramatically. And it's very dry, arid, desert-like. I personally find this absolutely gorgeous. And you're traveling along these different bridges, looking down into these stunning ravines. And then you're going to arrive in Quesnel. Quesnel is a teeny tiny old little mining town. It is a place for you to just get off, get a good night's sleep. There are no she hotels in Quesnel. About 3 years ago, they opened up a Best Western, and that was like the big hoo-ha-ha for the folks of Quesnel. But the people there are lovely. Usually as the train is pulling in, you're going to be seeing people waving at you. It's because you're a source of entertainment. So for that, I say thank you. But the next morning, we're picking you up. And as you leave Quesnel, you're going to notice the scenery changes dramatically again, because now you're in those Canadian Rockies and you are surrounded by those magical snow-capped mountains. And as you approach Jasper, you're going to come across Mount Robson, largest mountain peak in the Canadian Rockies. We have two-day routes. First is our Journey Through the Clouds. Now, Journey Through the Clouds, if you're leaving Vancouver, you're going to be making your way, stopping off at the quaint town of Kamloops. I love Kamloops. It is a quirky little town, but there are 2 rivers that run through it. And I always say, and I took this picture last year, the sunsets there are absolutely spectacular. But again, no fancy hotels in Kamloops. It's actually the tournament capital of Canada. So kind of keep that in mind. But the next morning, and the real highlight of our Journey Through the Clouds is that you're going to come across Pyramid Falls. And it is this stunning, stunning waterfall. And we come right at the base of the falls. Now, again, our train travels fairly slow, around 28, 38 miles an hour. But when we come across these jaw-dropping types of scenery like Pyramid Falls, the train comes to what I like to call like a Kodak crawl. Maybe we're traveling around 5 to 8 miles an hour. So you can take in the roaring of the falls. It is such a beautiful sight. And guess what? The only people who get to see Pyramid Falls are those traveling on Rocky Mountaineer, because it's not accessible by road. And again, as you're approaching Jasper, you come across that gorgeous mountain, Mount Robson, as well. We have another 2-day route, and this is our first passage to the west. Now, this route will take you from Vancouver over to Lake Louise or Banff. So again, you'll be overnighting in that great town of Kamloops during the summer season. Again, try to go down to the water if you have time, because they usually have different bands playing. Again, it's really, really quite quaint. But the next day is really, I think, the showstopper of the first passage to the west. And we call it that because as we leave Kamloops, we're going to come across this tiny little town called Krigalaki. The significance of this town is this is where they put in the last spike that completed the rail line. And it's really important to Canadians. It's what united the country. But they had a bit of a problem. could not figure out how to control the speed of the train as they were traveling through those fabulous mountains. So they went to their friends up in Switzerland. They have really big mountains. They had a running rail line. And they said, how in the world did you do this? An engineer came down and he goes, I got it. We're going to blow through the mountains. So as you're traveling on this route, you're going to travel with what we call going through the mountains on our spiral tunnels. Now you're probably thinking spiral tunnel. You're like, is that like a corkscrew? We're not Disney. I think the best way that I can describe it, think of an uppercase cursive L. So you're traveling in and out of the mountains at various degrees, and that's what helps control the speed of the train. And once you get out of those tunnels, it is one of the most breathtaking views that you will ever see. And I've really debated on including a picture, but first of all, it just doesn't do it justice. Second of all, I have to leave you all with some sort of element of surprise. So that's going to be something that you're going to have to discover on your own. If you cannot decide which route you like to take, then you can take the train round trip in what we call our circle journeys. And an example of one is starting in Vancouver, taking our, let's say, 3-day rail route, which is our Rainforest to Gold Rush. At that point, you're going to get off the train and spend a couple of nights in Jasper, a couple of nights in Lake Louise, a few nights in Banff, and this is where you're off the train doing your sightseeing activities, and then taking a different route, making your way back to Vancouver. So if you're wanting to spend more time on the train, if you really are wanting to see all of the different types of topography and all the different kinds of scenery throughout the Canadian Rockies, you may want to think about taking one of our circle journeys. And we have packages anywhere from 7 to 13 days in total. So once you decide which route you're going to take, the next step is choosing your package. So we have kind of put together these sightseeing packages to pair with your rail vacation. And what I'm really talking about, it's sightseeing activities that are in and around Vancouver, Jasper, Lake Louise, and Banff. And what I love about our company is that we're not only giving you that very unique perspective of traveling on the train throughout the Canadian Rockies, but we really have put together some unique sightseeing activities so you get to really be able to explore and immerse yourself into some of these wonderful towns. Now, you can do your sightseeing in 2 different ways. First, it's by Motor Coach Sightseeing Tour. So this is great for those of you who've maybe never been to the Canadian Rockies before, and you like to have a guide there that's kind of pointing out the different sites. So our sightseeing tours will pick you up from your hotel from point A, drop you off at your hotel at town B, but they're including sightseeing activities along the way, and you have that driver guide with you. Now, another way that you can do your sightseeing activities with us is through our self-drive program. And that is the WhirlAway travel agents will book your hotel, they'll book your car for you, and then you can explore on your own. Now, this green dotted line here going from Jasper all the way down to Calgary, this is the Icefields Parkway. It's one of the most scenic parkways in the world. And guess what? There's only one road. You cannot get lost. So our self-drive program is a great option for those of you who are maybe really into photography, or you want to do, and you're into hiking or doing nature walks, or just wanting to kind of do things at your own timetable. Our self-drive program would be a great option for you as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the sightseeing activities that you can do in some of these fantastic cities and towns. So first, there's Vancouver. I love Vancouver. I think it's one of the most beautiful cities in all of North America. And there is so much to see or do there. So my word of advice, if you've never been to Vancouver, spend at least 2 to 3 nights there. There really is a lot to see and do. And we have a couple of different sightseeing tours. So you can do a hop on, hop off, but we do have half-day sightseeing tours, and we have some full-day sightseeing tours that are guided. All of the tours are going to travel through Stanley Park. Stanley Park, absolutely beautiful, and it kind of put things into perspective. It's even bigger than Central Park. So it makes several different stops along the way. Now, if you're going to do our full-day tour, we'll include Capilano Rainforest. So there's a suspension bridge that goes across over to their treetop adventure, where you see that there are these other kind of bridges going amongst the trees. You feel like you're just walking right in on the tops of this gorgeous rainforest. They also have this fabulous bird sanctuary there as well. And I always recommend, if you have time, go to Granville Island. It is like this huge farmer's market. So they have an indoor farmer's market. They have tons and shops of restaurants. My other little tip for you, and this is really more for you coffee drinkers. There is a fabulous coffee roaster. It's called Origins. The man who owns it, named John, great guy. Some of the best coffee you will ever drink. Every single time I go to Vancouver, I spend a couple of hours at Granville Island. I always bring back a couple of pounds of coffee, and I feel like it's a win-win. Not only do I get to have fabulous coffee, my luggage throughout the trip is absolutely, smells fabulous. So think about getting a couple pounds of coffee. Now there's also Victoria. Victoria is kind of right outside on this island outside of Vancouver. And we have sightseeing tours where you can just do a day trip to Victoria, taking the ferry over. But we also have sightseeing packages where you can spend a couple of nights there on Victoria. I love Victoria. It is like this quintessential, just picturesque little seaside town. But the real highlight is the Bootshark Gardens. And I don't care what time of year you go. I have been anywhere from the middle of the summer and where it looks like this to the dead of winter, and it's still absolutely gorgeous. But I have to say, if you've never been, try to spend some time, especially at the beautiful Bootshark Gardens. Now I'm going to talk about Alberta and these fantastic towns and ways that you can really, really explore the Canadian Rockies. I'm going to start with Jasper. Jasper is home to Jasper National Park. It's the largest national park in the Canadian Rockies. We have a half-day sightseeing tour. We also have full-day sightseeing tours that include a cruise on Moraine Lake out to Spirit Island. Well, you will again have the most beautiful, just breathtaking views of the Canadian Rockies. And remember, I mentioned that green dotted line, the Icefields Parkway. Again, one of the most scenic parkways in the world. And the reason being is not only are you flanked by those gorgeous, rugged, snow-capped mountains, but there's also some amazing waterfalls. My personal favorite, Athabasca Falls. And then you have an opportunity to walk on a glacier. And Athabasca Glacier is one of the few glaciers in the world where it's accessible by road. And then there are the most stunning blue-green glacier-fed lakes. And I mean, they are all over along the parkway. My personal favorite is Moraine Lake. I took this picture in June of last year. It doesn't even do it justice because you've got this blue, but then you've got just the background of those snow-capped mountains. Absolutely spectacular. But the most photographed and one of the most beautiful lakes in the world, Lake Louise. And you can spend a couple of nights at the gorgeous Chateau Lake Louise. In the summertime, you can go canoeing on the lake. There is also a path that goes along the way so you can walk along and take a leisurely stroll around the lake. For those of you that may be a little bit more active hikers, there is a path that goes up, and it's probably about an hour-long hike. But you can also rent horses if you want to go horseback riding up to the tea house, which gives you gorgeous views of Alpine Lake. So there's a lot of things to do in and around Lake Louise, or you can just relax at the famous Chateau Lake Louise. And then there's Banff. And when I think of the Canadian Rockies, I think of Banff. So this picture here is a picture of Banff Avenue. This is the main street that goes through the town. This is where all of our Silverleaf, or their more modest hotels, are littered all along Banff Avenue. And there are tons of shops and restaurants everywhere. I'm going to give you another little tip. If you want to do some shopping, do your shopping in Banff, 5% sales tax. Do not do it in Vancouver unless you're buying John's Coffee, 12% sales tax. So this is really why you want to do your shopping. However, there's a lot of other things to do versus just shopping and eating in Banff. The town of Banff sits at Banff National Park. Now, what also sits in the town is that there's a gondola that takes you up to Sulphur Mountain, where you will have, again, these beautiful aerial views of the Canadian Rockies and the township of Banff. And they have fire pits there during the summertime. They have a bar area up there. So they also have the fire pits, but they have music playing. It's absolutely wonderful. I had a woman once who's like, I'm not going up that gondola. And I said, listen to me. I'm telling you, you really should try to get up to that mountain because the views are gorgeous. And she goes, well, maybe I'll take a Valium. And I'm like, you do what you need to do. Just make sure you get up that mountain. And then there's Lake Minnewanka. In Lake Minnewanka, we can include a 60-minute cruise on the lake, and it's home to the family of bighorn sheep. So usually you get a pretty good chance to see those beautiful animals. Now, right next to Banff National Park is Yoho National Park, which is home to the beautiful Emerald Lake. I think you can guess why they call it that. It's absolutely gorgeous and just dynamic. And then there's Calgary. Now, Calgary is another great city. Usually I would say Calgary, if you're going to spend extra time in a city, if you've never been to Vancouver, do it there. I mean, Calgary is also a fantastic city. They have a wonderful museum there. If anyone's into microbreweries, you can do like this microbrewery crawl there. Calgary, home to the Calgary Stampede, always the first 2 weeks of July. Think like Super Bowl of all fairs and festivals. But between Banff and Calgary, we can include a panoramic helicopter ride, giving you, again, breathtaking views of the Canadian Rockies, and really from a very unique perspective. Now, this is optional. So is the gondola. So all of our packages on a one-way route, we always include the gondola and the helicopter. However, we do not force everybody to do this. And so if you say to your WhirlAway Travel advisor, look, Jamie, I don't feel like I want to get up in a helicopter. That's okay. We take it out, it lowers the price. So the sightseeing activities that I talked about here are just some of the more popular sightseeing activities we have. This is where it's really useful for you to work with the WhirlAway Travel consultants, because they can talk to you about other sightseeing activities that you can do, some that are a little bit more active, some if you want to have a little bit more of a relaxed type of vacation. The last step is choosing your season. Now, the first question I usually always get is, well, do I sleep on the train? And the answer is no. Second question I get, and I know some of you are thinking this right now, well, when's the best time to go? And I don't think that there's a good or bad time to travel out to the Canadian Rockies. I really, really think it's what would you like to see and do once you're off the train. We operate from mid-April to mid-October. Spring, I think, is a lovely time of year to travel if you want to see snow. And for me, when I go out to the Canadian Rockies, there is just something that makes those mountains just more magical by having the snow on them. But also in the spring, it gives you a great opportunity to see wildlife from the train, because all of those animals, especially those bears, coming out of hibernation. Summer is a wonderful time of year. The weather is picture perfect. It's usually somewhere in the mid 70s. Absolutely gorgeous. So if you're wanting to do more activities outdoors, like hiking, canoeing, things of that nature, you may want to consider going during the summer season. This is where you're usually going to see that wildlife off the train as you're doing your sightseeing along the Icefields Parkway. Fall is another fantastic time of year to travel. Again, they're all my favorite. The fall I really love, and I think that you get the best of both worlds. So when you're in Vancouver, especially towards like the end of September, beginning of October, you get the fall foliage over Stanley Park, and it's absolutely beautiful. But then as you're traveling on the train out to Alberta, to the Canadian Rockies, you get to see the snow on the mountains. The bears again are going back into hibernation, so more opportunity to see that wildlife from the train. Again, I don't think you can go right or wrong with any time of year. It just depends on what you like to really do once you're off the train. We've got some great promotions that are going on right now. It really is a fantastic time to be traveling out to the Canadian Rockies for next year. So we have our All Aboard 2021 promotion. And this is if you're booking a package of 8 days or longer, and to be honest with you, most people do, that we will include 2 additional hotel nights. Now that's going to be either in Vancouver or Calgary, or one of each. So if you've never been to Vancouver, you may want to consider that option. We're also going to include a free dinner at your hotel. Again, all your meals and drinks are included when you're traveling with us on the train. But when you're off the train at the hotels, you have a choice. You can go out and explore on your own, or you can book a meal package with us, and that could be either breakfast or dinner at the hotel. As part of this promotion, we do include a free dinner. My word of advice, I know I've been giving you some tips, I'm going to give you one more. Use your free dinner at Lake Louise if you're staying there, because guess what? Unless you have a car, you're eating at the Chateau Lake Louise. And then we're also going to include a private airport transfer. So we'll have somebody waiting for you at the airport with a sign to take you to your hotel. Now, on top of this, we're only offering a $25 CAD deposit. So that is, if you make your deposit by the end of this month, we're only requiring $25 CAD. So I think right now with the conversion, it's like $17. And you can now take advantage of these great promotions. And Jamie will be sending out this information to all of you once we're done with the presentation. Working with WhirlAway. So as Jamie mentioned, she and I have been working for a really, really long time. They are absolutely wonderful. The people who work there, I know Sarah, I don't have your picture on here. She's the office manager. She likes to stay hidden, but they all are a wealth of knowledge. And I always say it is such a huge benefit to work with your local travel agency, because not only do you have a face with a name, but they can book your airfare, they can book your trip insurance, and I cannot stress that enough. Make sure that you get that trip insurance. There's so many different options out there for you, so they can help you figure out which plan is best for you. And with that, I'll say, when you're in Banff, there is this huge Sasquatch. Kind of looks like my boyfriend. Well, he's not that hairy, but you got to give the Sasquatch a big hug. It's a big tradition there in Banff. So with that, Jamie, I don't know if you want me to stop sharing my screen or leave it, but I see that there are a couple of questions and answers, or some questions in the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Stacy. That's a good looking boyfriend you got there.
He's really tall.
And we need to desperately update our pictures on our website. So we're doing a total like logo revamp and website revamp that we're going to be announcing next quarter or sometime like that. And include Sarah on there and Amy as well, because I don't think you've met her.
No.
But we had a couple questions. I have questions, so bear with me here. So I'm gonna run through them rather quickly. But
Okay.
the first question that we had was, how many people can fit on the Gold Leaf platform?
Probably around, I would say, about 15 to 20 people comfortably.
Okay.
So it's really quite large. To be honest, and this is the weirdest thing, because I've been on the train 6 times, and I've always traveled on both the Gold Leaf and the Silver Leaf, because I do a lot of where I host travel agents, so we get everybody to experience both. And usually there's about like only 5, maybe 8 people out there at one time. I practically live on the outdoor viewing platform. I love photography. Even though you really can take some amazing photos from inside the rail car, but on average, I would say there's usually about 5 people out there at a time.
Okay. Another question that we had was, can you stay extra nights? But I want to tie that in because I know the answer to that one. So I want to tie it in. The one thing that I learned from you, Stacy, the last time that we actually met in person was that I had always had in my mind that Rocky Mountaineer was like like almost like a guided tour. You pick an itinerary and you go with it. And what I really love about Rocky Mountaineer is that it is completely customizable outside of like just doing that train route. So you can do as many nights as you want. So I think that kind of answers, yes, you can do extra nights in hotels as you go along. But where I had a question was, if somebody's doing, so say they're doing that northern, I think it's the rainforest, the Gold Rush to rainforest, or rainforest to Gold Rush. Mm-hmm. If they were going to do that and then go from Jasper down to Calgary or go down to Lake Louise, Banff area, how long do you recommend that basically, I guess that would be a self-drive route to do?
Or you could do it or you could do it guided, either one, because we have the motor coach tours and we have the self-drive.
Okay. So if you were doing a self-drive, how long do you recommend for that?
Well, I think for either one, regardless of how you do your sightseeing activities, you're going to want to spend at least 2 nights in Jasper. Okay. And the reason why I say that is if you're going to start from Vancouver, taking your way to Jasper, you're going to get into Jasper anywhere from like 7 to 8 o'clock at night. And if you leave the next day to do your sightseeing and make your way down to, let's say, Lake Louise, you're missing out on Jasper National Park or parts of it. So I recommend spending at least 2 nights there, because then the whole next day you can spend doing sightseeing. Again, whether you do it through the rental car or you do it through our sightseeing tours. I think with Lake Louise, it's a toss-up. You can spend anywhere from 1 to 2 nights. It really depends on how much time you want to stay at that fabulous chateau, because it really is fabulous. Definitely would spend at least 2 nights in Banff. Now, what you can do is you could maybe spend a little bit more time in Banff, not stay at the Chateau Lake Louise, but we do have a sightseeing tour that stops off at Lake Louise. So if you don't stay there and if you want to make Banff like your base, mm-hmm. we do have a sightseeing tour. Or again, if you have your rental car, then you can then do your sightseeing. So every time that I go, and I take my family every year, I do the self-drive. And that's because I'm everybody's tour guide. I've been on the train 6 times. I've been out to the Canadian Rockies 8 times. So I know it pretty well. So I usually make Banff my base. I spend 3 nights in Banff. I'll spend 2 nights in Jasper. And then I'll spend a night or 2 in Calgary. Okay. But I would definitely spend at least, you know, if you can spend that 1 night at least at Lake Louise, it really is a beautiful property. And I would spend at least 2 nights in Banff.
Okay. And are we able to arrange a private driver and guide for our clients with Rocky Mountaineer?
Yep, we can do that as well. So we can hire a driver and guide, and then, you know, they'll take care of everything for your clients. So absolutely.
Okay. because driving with my husband leads to divorce. So, are cocktails served on board?
Yes, on the train, yes. So on the train, it's we have 4 different beers, 4 different wines. They're all local to British Columbia. British Columbia wines are fantastic. And if anybody out there is a wine person like I am, definitely maybe try to bring a couple of bottles home because they don't export to the US. And then we also have top shelf liquor. So we have Bailey's. So that's why I mentioned my mother used to always love putting Bailey's in her coffee. But we also have some scotch, I think other liquors. I can't drink on the train, but we do have top shelf liquor as well.
Okay. You mentioned the helicopter Calgary Banff. Is that from Calgary to Banff?
Yes. So it's right in between. It's in a tiny little town called Kananaskis. So
Okay.
it's really equidistant. So it's like 45 minutes from Banff. It's 45 minutes from Calgary. So all of our vacation packages outside of the self-drive, but the ones where we include the guided tours, we do include that helicopter as part of the package. But again, if somebody doesn't want to do it, that's fine. We take it out, it lowers the price.
Okay. And I think that might.
Yeah, the other thing I want to really make note also is just so that everyone's aware that all your luggage and fees and all that, that's all taken care of for you. And when you're traveling with us on the train, the thing to note is that your luggage does not travel with you on the train. So for example, if you're starting your vacation in Vancouver, we're gonna say, okay, leave your bags at the hotel. We pick them up and we put them on a truck. The truck goes ahead of the train. So for example, let's say that you're overnighting in Kamloops. The host on board are gonna hand you your hotel keys on the train. Then we'll shuttle you to your hotel. You walk right up to your room and there are your bags. So if you're traveling with us on the train, if you have to take medication, throughout the day, bring it. I would say the only other things that you need to really bring, especially if you're traveling on the Gold Leaf rail car, maybe bring a jacket, sunglasses, or a cap. That's pretty much it. You're not bringing food. I am not kidding you. We are feeding you the entire time. And another thing to note, we don't have Wi-Fi on the train. But I honestly think after all of this social distancing we've all been doing, we're going to be ready to socialize. And it's just really nice that you pare everything down. We're all have been using so much technology these days, which is wonderful. Don't get me wrong, but it's really wonderful to travel on the train, to just decompress. I'm telling you, the scenery throughout the Canadian Rockies, it's one of the most beautiful places on earth. And I feel very fortunate that I've traveled around the world. Canadian Rockies by far, and I've been on the train. Everyone's like, God, you've been on the train 6 times. Don't you get bored? Never, never. And the first time I went, I brought my book, I brought cards, I brought all this stuff because I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to be on this train? I am not kidding you. Scenery is not only beautiful, but the host we have on board and the service is absolutely spectacular. No need to even bring anything extra because it really is one of the most beautiful places on earth.
You're super passionate about it and I love it. You excite me about train travel, and I think the only train that I've really ever been on has been like a SEPTA train. Not the same thing, huh? Maybe Amtrak once or twice. Stella one time. That was like my high-end train experience, is Stella.
This is really more like taking like a river cruise. I always say Rocky Mountaineer, it's like a river cruise on wheels. Very, very similar to a river cruise. We go nice and slow. Everyone's taking care of you. It's all about the scenery. The big difference is we don't have you sleep on the train like you would on a river cruise.
So I had another question. How many days would you recommend for a first-time stay in Vancouver?
Oh, at least 2 to 3.
Okay.
Honestly. Yeah, I would say And because our promotion, so all of our packages are automatically include 1 night in Vancouver. What's great about the promotion we have right now is we're going to give you 2 free additional nights. I would use those 2 free additional nights in Vancouver. And then so that, the first day you're coming in, I would take that morning flight out so that you arrive into Vancouver probably like around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. This is just what I usually do. So then that day kind of, relax, kind of get acclimated and whatnot. The next day, so your second day, do a sightseeing tour. You can either do the hop on, hop off, or do one of our guided tours. But then maybe even your third day, take that day trip out to Victoria. It really is one of the most quaint towns, but the Bootshark Gardens, absolutely spectacular. So I would say spend at least those 3 nights in Vancouver. And that's where this promotion, it really is a fantastic promotion because you get to spend those extra nights on us.
And do you use the Fairmonts in Vancouver?
We do. We use the Fairmonts everywhere.
All 30 or 40 of them? I don't know. There's so many Fairmonts in Vancouver. It's crazy.
And there's another great 5-star hotel called the Sutton Place. That's another fabulous property as well, and the Pan Pacific.
Yes.
There's some gorgeous, gorgeous hotels littered throughout Vancouver.
Yes, there are. It's such a cool city. I think I'm just trying. Oh, I had one more question. So on the train, for people that have medical needs that need refrigeration, do you have facilities that can like hold insulin or anything like that on the train?
Yeah, we do have specifically, I know actually in both of the rail cars, yes. So I would whoever asked that question, talk to Jamie or one of the travel consultants there, and then they'll notify us to make sure so that we can flag it to keep it, if you need insulin, to keep everything cold for you. So absolutely.
Okay, super helpful. Thank you.
Yep.
I don't think that's it. We don't have any more questions. This was like your fun. So thank you.
I really feel fortunate. My whole career was in finance and brokerage. So I'm like, oh, it's so much more fun to talk about vacations in the Canadian Rockies versus asset allocations in really bad markets. So
I can imagine. So thank you so much. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. And we will be following up with you this week, probably tomorrow, or tomorrow's Thursday. Geez, this week is going by fast. Thursday or Friday of this week. If you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or one of our travel advisors in the office. We'll be happy to answer any other questions that you might have. We have Stacy on speed dial, and as you can see, she is like a huge wealth of knowledge for us and is just really there for us. I will also just remind everybody that I have heard a rumor that the Canadian Rockies are going like hotcakes for next summer. So if it's something that is on your mind, the promotion that they have right now is I don't think I've ever heard of a promotion that's $17 per person to secure space. So that's just crazy. So jump on it, take advantage of it, because I don't think it'll ever come back around. That's not.
COVID is a funny little thing. So
Yes,
I always like to try to take the silver lining in things.
Yes, so do I. I'm a big silver lining person. Always look for the bright spots. So thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you, Stacy, and have a wonderful night.
Yeah, have a good night, everybody. Stay safe.